Hey podcasters, are you tired of endlessly searching for the perfect guest for your show? Well, look no further. Podmatch is the ultimate platform for connecting podcast hosts with guests. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster looking for fresh voices or an expert wanting to share your knowledge, Podmatch has got you covered. It's kind of like a dating site for podcasts. With Podmatch's advanced algorithm, finding your perfect match is just a few clicks away. Simply create your profile, specify your interests, and let Podmatch do the rest. You'll be matched with guests or hosts who align with your interests in no time. To get started today, visit www.joinpodmatch.com/Quiet Connection Podcast and start making meaningful connections that will take your podcast to the next level. Welcome to Quiet Connection, a podcast dedicated to ending the stigma surrounding perinatal mental health. I'm Chelsea. Today I'm joined by musician and dad George Ajjan, also known as the Ajjancy. George shares how fatherhood reshaped his songwriting, from teenage love songs to deeply personal time capsules for his kids. We talk about parenting, creativity, vulnerability, and the legacy music can leave behind. This is a conversation full of honesty, heart, and the reminder that parents are whole people with passions that matter. Here's George. Hello! Today I'm here with George. George, how are you?
Chelsea, I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you.
I am so excited that you have high energy. You're
Never been a problem for me.
No, it is something that I am going to feed off of because
Good.
I need all of it that I can get.
Very good. Here to serve.
Oh my gosh. I'm always especially thankful to have dads join the podcast.
I was going to say that when I was scrolling through, I'm like, I'm really in a very kind of minority group here.
Yeah, we have had dads. But I think I can count on two hands.
Okay.
So in 6 seasons and over 100 episodes, not many dads. So
Well, I'm here representing. So
I love
yeah.
it. I love it. We love it. And it's great because, again, we're all about smashing stigmas, and there is a big stigma for dads and talking about their journey and their mental health.
Yeah.
So
Big time.
happy to have you here. Rather than me go down the list of things that I know about you,
Right.
I would love it if you could introduce yourself to my listeners and let us know a little bit about who you were before you were a parent.
Okay. So my name is George. My last name is Ajjan. And so I'm here I'm here as a parent first and foremost, but the reason I reached out to you was in my capacity as a musical artist. And we'll talk a lot about that and the work that I do creating music and how that reflects the journey of parenthood. And so as a musical artist, my name is The Ajjancy, which is a play on my last name. But for the purposes of this discussion, I'm a regular dad named George. And so, yeah, I was keen to come on here and chat with you. And I've reached out to a bunch of parenting podcasts because long and short of it, as a musical person, when you're younger, you write love songs. Well, starting when you're a teenager, who's the person I have a crush on, and let me write a song and all that stuff. And then when you reach the point where you're a parent, what I found is that the love songs become dedicated and inspired by my children, or even the idea of parenthood, and less about a significant other or a lover or in a romantic context. And so I thought that's an interesting angle to pursue, and parenthood being a subject. And there's wonderful songs over the years that have been dedicated to parenthood that have meant a lot to people. And so whatever I can contribute in that genre, in that vein, is really a pleasure, and it's something I enjoy doing. It's something I find a lot of meaning in, and I hope others will as well. So yes, I'm here because I write songs and I record music, and I'm what you would call a singer-songwriter. But first and foremost, that's a passion project and a hobby, but I'm a father. I have a regular job and regular life, and I gotta get my kids to soccer practice and help them with their homework, and punish them when they're misbehaving, and and all the good and
Stuff.
challenging stuff of parenthood is all part of it. And as a dad, there are men and there are women, And yes, we try to break from the idiotic stigmas of gender roles, but dads do certain things and moms do certain things. And so it's important, I think, for dads to be aware of that and to be a backup and a support for the moms. I mean, I guess we can go into great detail on that, but there's a lot of times where it's like, wow, I'll discuss with my co-parents, like, God, she's like, it's so much easier for you because you're the dad and you say a certain thing and it just happens. Whereas the mom has to, like that famous meme where it's like the kid's asking the mom, why are you always yelling? Because nothing happens until I
Nobody's
start yelling.
listening to me. Yes. Or they're running around dad to get to mom. Like, mom, mom, mom,
Yep.
mom, mom. It's
Yeah,
like,
I've
your
seen that
dad's
movie
right
quite a
there.
few times.
Yeah. Yeah. So music plays a huge role in your life and sounds like
Yes.
it always has. Is that kind of, so pre-parenting, was that just your path?
It was no, it was never my path. It was
Okay.
it was a hobby. It was going back to second grade, okay, you're going to take piano lessons because that's the aspirational thing for middle class American people to do. Okay.
I
So
did
I
it
took piano
too.
lessons and learned, okay, the C scale, and I learned how to read music. I learned all the fundamentals. I was not very talented at it. And I didn't practice very much. It was like, you had that log where you're supposed to write how many minutes you practiced, and it was like my mom yelling at me, "The teacher's coming in 30 minutes. You need to practice." Right?
I had
That
that
was
same
yeah,
message from my mother, yes.
yeah. So that was me learning music as a kid, and then it was the '80s, and um, the saxophone had replaced the guitar as the instrument of a solo in a pop song, and so there was a huge saxophone section in the school band. And so, I played the saxophone for a few years in the band, and then I joined the choir when I was in high school, and I was involved in musical theaters. But that was, Chelsea, to me, always like an extracurricular activity because you're supposed to, be a good student and go to a good college. It wasn't like drama or music was a career path that was viable in any way. And that was the box that it was put in for me. But I stuck with it as a hobby. And even in college was singing in choirs. And then my cousin, who's a year younger than me, he went to Manhattan School of Music and studied jazz saxophone. And so he was on the sort of the professional track for a musician. So it was always in my orbit. One summer in college, we played in a band together playing covers, and we started writing songs. So it was always like I had this dream of one day I have these songs in these little old cassettes, and I'm gonna have millions of dollars, and I'm gonna go into a recording studio and make an album like I always dreamed to do. And what I found out in the last few years is that just the state of the industry and the way technology has changed has lowered the bar so far so that professional musicians are very accessible to ordinary people, and you can make an album for a small fraction of what it would have cost back in the day when we were growing up, and you needed a record deal and a record company to invest millions of dollars into you. That's not the case anymore. And so, part of my message when I talk to other musicians on podcasts is anybody can do it. If you want to do it, go and you're not going to do it every month. It's not for free, okay?
No.
But if you want to make an album in the traditional way of a band or a singer-songwriter going into a studio with professional musicians, it's actually reasonable to be able to do it. And so I always encourage people, if you have that passion, you can make it happen. You really can. And that's something that once you have those songs, whether they're printed on a disc or just out there somewhere on YouTube or on
In the
Spotify or whatever,
cloud or whatever.
it's there forever, and you live forever by doing that. And there's a great quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astronomer, who said, "Okay, look, yeah, you can say I did impressive things in the context of space and astronomy and all that stuff, but if I wasn't here, somebody else eventually would have discovered them. But anybody who does anything creative, it's 100% unique, and no one else will have ever or could ever do exactly what you did." As a singer, that's a comfort because people say, "Oh, singers always doubt their voice." I mean, even John Lennon hated his voice and thought it sounded terrible and always wanted to find ways to trick it and mask it and stuff like that. But what you realize is that you have a voice. Every human being has a voice, and it's unique. No one else sounds like you. And therefore, that in and of itself has value. And so you have to learn to lean into that. It's hard because you get imposter syndrome as a creator. I'm sure even as a podcaster, you say, am I really,
Oh,
should I
yeah.
really even be talking about these things? But that's part of it. And if you don't have that, you probably should be checking yourself that, to be frankly,
Yeah.
that's,
I mean, yeah, things that you said, resonated in ways that I'm not even sure you intended. So, like, no, truly. So, talking about music as a hobby, even growing up and into
Mhm.
adulthood, and talking about how, like, going for that and doing that and how accessible it is now, that speaks to parents who put their passions on the shelf when they become parents. Because, right, it's all consuming. Morning,
Yeah.
noon, night, even when you're
Yeah.
sleeping, you're thinking about your kids. And it is important to still do those things that you're passionate about
Yeah.
and finding
Yeah.
ways to make them accessible. I was literally just talking to my husband saying like, "Oh my gosh, I have to record today and I have to record tomorrow." And he's like, "Chelsea, you love doing this. Like,
Yeah.
why are you saying that?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know actually."
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't
No,
know.
it's a
Be-
good point.
because you put yourself at the bottom of the list, and
Mhm.
being creative and and I am also hugely passionate about music, and there's an episode that will be earlier in this season that you'll have to
Okay.
check out from another
Yes.
musician
Okay.
who is also a dad. um
Great.
yeah. um and I just think it's really important to highlight that if you have a passion and there's something that really brings you joy and fills your cup, you have to make the time for it.
You do, and that's I think also part of being a good parent because your children need to see that, wow, mom and dad are not just slaves to us. Like, I mean, of course, they're going to see that. 'Cause, I mean, kids are inherently selfish. They just want what they want when they want it, and
Yep.
we were the same way. And I mean, that's practically bred into the species. I think that's probably a biological instinct. Just give me what I want now. That it's your responsibility to give it to me. But if you break out of that, you realize that it's important to show the kids that, wow, mom and dad love doing the things that they do apart from us.
Mhm.
And that gives them a sense of aspiration. Like, wow, I can look up to that. That's a role model for me. Not just, okay, one day I'll just be a slave to my kids. It's no, of
Yeah.
course I want to have kids too and raise them. I mean, that's an instinct. It's a human instinct, but also I want to do things that make me fulfilled and happy and give back to others as well.
Unless you're my 9-year-old who says she doesn't wanna get married or have kids and just wants to have 100 dogs. So, there's that.
Okay, there's
Yeah,
that too.
there's a
Uh,
place for that. Uh,
yeah,
I'm like, "Cool, sounds good. Have
yeah,
fun with that." Um, anyway, back to you.
yes,
Let's talk a little bit about your journey into parenthood. Was that something that was always a lifestyle you envisioned for yourself? Did you always
yeah.
want
I think
kids?
I grew up, in the pretty conventional way. I was the oldest. I had two younger sisters. You know, go to school, do well in school, go to college, get a job, and then have the house with the 2.3 kids and the picket fence. That was it. That was what you're supposed to do in life. And I didn't really rebel from any of that. I think now, later on, like going back and saying, no, I'm going to go and make music because that's what I love to do in my late 40s. I mean, that's my rebellion. I guess in the
Yeah.
old days, we would have called that a midlife crisis. Call it whatever you want. I really don't care. That's fine. I'm happy doing that. And I'm doing it for myself, not for anybody else or because I think I'm going to become a rock star or whatever. I mean, no, of course not. I'm doing it for myself, for my own sense of satisfaction and to leave something else behind. But yes, but to come back to your question, yeah, being a parent was always kind of expected of others around me and of myself as well. Yeah, of course, I always wanted that. I have two boys. One is 14, the other is 11. So the older one has just entered high school. He's a freshman in high school. The younger one has just entered middle school. He's in sixth grade. And so I think the subjects you cover on your podcast frequently about postpartum depression, I mean, that phase is kind of way in the rearview mirror for me now. But having just done a little bit of research on your podcast, just prepping for this, it's like, oh God, I remember those days and how challenging it is and how worrying it is. And that's a lot of weight to carry. And then also, as the dad, you don't biologically have that problem, but you try your best. Even today, I say, I know I can't understand, but I'm trying. I qualify. I was like, I'm trying to understand as best I can what's happening here, and that's I think that's a responsibility of a dad.
Yeah. Um, and I think that was also what kind of like when you reached out to me and when I learned a little bit more about you, I think that was what intrigued me most was your attention to your partner's experience while also acknowledging your own experience. So there's this kind of stigma doesn't feel like the right word to use, but it almost feels like dads are told to kind of like put up and shut up a little bit. Like mom is carrying the weight of this and you should be supportive. And
Yeah.
it feels like you held that mentality of like, okay, I need to be there for my partner. I need to be
Hmm.
that support system. But dads need to be held too. Parenting isn't easy at any stage. And just because we're called quiet connection postpartum mental health, like we've covered the gambit.
Yeah.
We've gone all the way up to adult children. Parenting, I say it doesn't get easier, it just evolves.
Hmm.
Um, but in the vein of bringing it back and going back in time a little bit, you said you always wanted to be a dad, you always envisioned that. When your first son was born, or maybe even, like, when you were prepping for that
Hmm.
birth, what were those moments like for you? Did they meet the expectations of what you thought
Boy,
fatherhood would
well,
be
I
like?
mean, that you cut, without even realizing, you cut right to the core of why I reached out to you in the first place, which is to talk about the songs that I made. And the
Yeah.
first song dedicated to my older son. Now, I want to clarify this because other creators will understand this. People always say, "Who did you write that song for?" And I'm always very explicit about this. The songs are for me.
Mhm.
They're for me and me alone. Now, other people might find meaning in them or take pleasure from them or take comfort in them, and that's wonderful. But I didn't write the song for my son. I wrote the song for me to process the feelings that I was going through, whether that was having a crush on the girl when I was 16 years old, or dealing with that awe-inspiring moment when they put that infant in your arms when you're in your 30s, or whatever. The songs are for the artist to channel his or her feelings or their feelings into the world,
Mhm.
and they're inspired by or dedicated to other humans, or whatever, or dogs, or whatever it happens to be, right? In this case,
If it's
humans.
my 9-year-old, it
Yes,
would
if
be
it's
a
your
dog.
9-year-old with your 100 dogs, that's a lot of songs.
Yeah.
That'd either be a an album with a very short tracks, or really a box set,
Or I was
as we
gonna
used to
say
have.
it would
Yeah.
probably be a boxed set, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that song is called "Proud to Be." It was really inspired by that moment when that infant was placed in my arms, right there in the delivery room, or in the whatever, the maternity ward, or whatever it was at the hospital. And it was just like, okay, dads try to play it cool. We try to act like we're in control. And before that, we went to, at the time there was Bye Bye Baby, right? We had the whole list, and went to IKEA and assembled, figured out how to use those wrenches and assembled the crib. Like, yeah, I'm a good dad. I'm doing all the stuff I'm supposed to do. And you think that that's what it's all about, and you have it under control. And then when they put that human life in your arms, and you realize, and this is part of why I'm here, because not I'm a saint, that I'm better than other men at understanding what the mom is going through. Not at all. I'm just like everybody else. Just maybe I'm more willing to admit that, guys, we have to admit that was really a massive moment. And if we're being honest with ourselves, we weren't ready for it, because you're not, we can go into a long discussion about this, but the moms have a biological instinct. I mean, we're mammals, right? Moms have, for hundreds of millions of years, mammals breastfeed, and so there's an instinct there. Dads, at least at the beginning, don't have necessarily the instinct to know exactly what to do. And I was just frozen there, like, oh my god, am I ready for this? Like, this is a lot harder and more complicated than following the IKEA instructions, putting the crib together. And so you have to, that also, as a dad, you have to lean into that. Now, some dads just, I mean, there's a million stories of dads who were 18, 19 years old and just couldn't cope it, and just freaked out.
Yeah.
But if you're mature enough, and I think most dads probably do find a way to cope with it. And ideally, each generation should get better than the next in terms of doing the right things, being more aware, communicating better. And so I always say that, I'm very grateful to my parents for all that they gave me, but I have more skills and knowledge available to me than they did at their time. And my kids will have more skills and knowledge available to them when it's their turn. And so I just look at it like that. It's not to judge, it's just to be aware, and to do, as you said, it's an evolving task, it's an evolving responsibility, and we cope, we learn, we don't regret. We have this discussion all the time. There are no regrets, because my personal philosophy is, I look at life like a game of billiards. You can't say, oh, but I missed that shot. But because you missed that shot, the balls are aligned on the table the way they are today. And so maybe you're going to clear the table, and the next time you have the stick in your hand, whatever. I mean, that's just the analogy that I use, that no, you cannot. It's particularly as a parent. you cannot regret, because every single thing, I mean, even as a guy, every single movement you made in your life up to the time that your last child was conceived and that egg was fertilized by that particular sperm cell, every single thing in your life, if you regret it and you wish you had done it differently, you're basically saying, well, the kids I have today, it would be okay for them not to exist because I wanted to take that other job, or, I wanted to score that goal, or I wanted to whatever. You can't. You can if you this is just the reality of physics and biology. A sperm and an egg to come together, and there are millions and millions of permutations of that. And those ones were the ones that made it happen. And you and your listeners probably have seen the movie About Time. If you haven't, go watch it. It's a wonderful, wonderful film about a guy who comes to a certain age, and he's probably in his early 30s, and he realizes that in his family, there runs this trait where they have the capacity to move back in time in their own life. And so he
Wow.
realizes that this happens, and he panics, and he goes to his dad. His dad says, well, now, son, let me explain it to you that this runs in our family, and these are the responsibilities that are attached to this extraordinary ability. And he goes and does that. He wants to fix everything. His sister ends up in bad. He wants to go and fix everything and make his sister's life better. And then at some point he goes and he fixes it, but then he comes home and he realizes, like, who is this kid? This isn't my kid anymore. And then he goes to his dad. He says, no, you have to go back even further than that and not do what you did. And that's part of what you have to live with. And so I think that as a dramatic expression of that, and as a film and artistic representation, I think it does a really, really good job of hammering that point home that, you can't, as a parent, you can't regret things. You can only learn from them and try to do better next time around.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, so many things that you said hit little alarm bells in my head, which is perfect. But I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Moms don't have it figured out either. We may be biologically kind of like wired a little differently,
Yeah.
but it is super common, and a lot of my guests will tell you, they put that baby in your arms and you're like, "What the heck am I
Yeah.
supposed to do with this
Yeah.
baby?" Um, I do also want to acknowledge that that experience is different for dads. You didn't carry that bit. Some dads carry. If you are a gestational parent who also identifies as a dad, but most dads did not carry a pregnancy, and so you didn't get to grow and evolve with that fetus and that baby,
Hmm.
and you, like you said, you're not body feeding or breastfeeding, and so yeah, that's a shock. I like to say, like, when I met my first daughter, it took months and months, and I just felt like she was just a little monkey that lived in my house. Like,
Okay. Interesting.
right? Like, I don't know you. I don't know who we have to get to know each other.
Yeah, well, that was the feeling as a dad, and and the song is dedicated to that, and with the lyrics of the song, basically, it's asking questions. When I take you in my arms, do you know who I am? When I look at you, do you recognize me? When I kiss you, do you feel better? Do you get all that? Because, like, I know what you mean to me, and I'm trying to process that and do everything I can, but yeah, you just seem like you're not able to communicate to me. You're not able to respond in any way other than the like you would take care of a pet, like, okay, feed the pet and now it goes to sleep,
And then
or
it goes
whatever.
and then it
And
poops
that's
and
but
yeah.
when things are not going well, when you're crying and I'm trying to make you feel better, like, is it helping at all? I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. And of course, the mom is more attuned to that because there's some kind of biorhythm and some kind of connection there where, she's like, he's screaming, something's wrong. And I'm like, well, he's crying. He's a baby. Like, that's the dad's, oh, he's crying. He's a baby, whatever. She's like, I'm telling you, the way he's crying right now is not normal. And I'm like, and then again, you're in the stress of all it, and then you start arguing about it. And then, of course, in the end, she was right that there was a major problem with digestion, and he had to go on special formula, et cetera, et cetera. So not to go into the whole story. But yeah, like, dads are clueless about that stuff, and probably the moms are too. But you're at least a little bit better um, equipped
Yeah.
to.
We I get like you were saying, like, evolutionary wise, we are attuned in a certain way to
Yeah,
recognize certain cries. But I love that you're so just your candor in describing, like, well, I don't know, he's a baby, he cried. He's just crying. He's just upset.
yeah. I mean,
Or and like the song lyrics, like, I love that curiosity. Like, do you know who I am to you? Like, do you know that I'm trying to love you and to comfort you? And I think that
Exactly,
I
and
think
so
that's a
that
universal feeling.
it is, and that's I mean, that's, if and I hope others I mean, I did it because that as I said, I wanted to put that down and have it, and even as a kind of a time capsule for him that when he gets old, like now he can. I released the song on his birthday this year
Oh,
when he
wow.
turned 14, and so it's like, okay, this is what it was like. This is what I was experiencing when you were just a baby. You don't remember it, obviously, but I remember it, and even if I don't remember it, this song will remind me how I felt exactly at that moment. And then, there's his younger brother, the song that was dedicated to him was a little bit different. That one I wrote when he was 2 years old. Now, at this point, he knows who you are and can communicate a little bit, but still not to the point where you can tell him, I just want to tell you how much I love you and how much I would do. Like they can't process, they can't reason through anything. They know who you are and they know
They're like,
they can
"Cool,
laugh
can
with
you put
you.
on Blue's Clues, please?"
Yeah,
Like
like yeah. And so that song was just about, hey, this is I love you so much, and I want you to know that. But even though I'm saying this now when you're 2, but when you're older, you're like, he turned 11. Like now he can listen to it and he can say, oh wow, that's what my dad was saying. And then there's bits in there. I mean, there's 4 verses of the song. The first 2 are just kind of talking about that, communicating to him, and then the chorus is just saying, hey, I'm always there for you. I believe in you, and just however hard it is, your dad is behind you. And then the second half of the song, there's a verse dedicated to the mom saying, look, moms are going to mom you to death. I mean, my mom still moms me to death. I'm going to be 50 years old next year, right? And it's never going to go away. Like that's the way that it is, and you got to learn. And I'm still, oh God, rolling your eyes. I still feel like a teenager sometimes. Like, okay, mom, ew, mom, like those moments. But that's a mom, and you gotta learn to respect that, and it's hard because, you get annoyed, but it's not worth getting annoyed. You have to learn to respect and, to appreciate the over-momness, of moms spoiling you and worrying about you and taking care of you and all of that. And then there's a verse saying, "Look, you have a brother, you guys gotta stick together." And so it's a bit of trying to impart whatever wisdom I could muster to him and to any other parents or kids who happen to listen. Um, because and what I really liked when I was again doing the research in your podcast, and it's saying, it's just you're not alone. We're here because you're not alone. And I think people say, why do you make music? Yeah, okay, I make it for my own, for me to feel good and to process things and to feel a sense of accomplishment and all of that. But it's also to make somebody feel less alone, because you hear a song and think, wow, and I think of it in 2 ways, like either to bring, like, what is the goal in life? To bring joy or comfort to other people. Like when it comes down to it, it's that.
Yeah.
And I think music is one of the best ways to do that, because everybody has songs that they go to when they're feeling good or when they're feeling bad too. And it's not, I'm a happy person by nature. I'm a happy, upbeat, optimistic person. But
I'm
sometimes
getting that
yeah,
impression.
but
Yeah.
sometimes you listen to my songs and be like, "Oh, that's pretty dark and, and melancholy and sad, like, that doesn't," I'm like, "Well, yeah, but even when we were in the studio making the songs, we weren't dressed in black and, whipping ourselves. We were being ourselves and having fun because that's who we are." But the the sadness of life, like, that's part of life, and sometimes you wanna feel that because it gives you a sense of comfort when you hear a song that makes you wanna cry, and afterwards you feel like, "Well, yeah, I don't feel happy, but I feel unburdened somehow." And so I think whatever I try to do musically always has that goal in mind, because it's there for me. Like I feel when I listen to my own songs, like I'll feel like, say, why did you make it? Like that's, how did you come up with that, or why'd you do that? I said, because I wanted, nobody ever did it like that, and I wanted to hear that.
Mhm.
I wanted to create what I wished existed, and I think probably a lot of creators feel that way.
Yeah, and I think that while, again, I am a huge music lover, so this resonates with me particularly, I think that what it is ultimately is just putting down and unburdening yourself with what it is that you're trying to process.
Yes.
And that can come in the form of journaling, that can come in the form of writing music, that can come in the
Yeah.
form of playing a sport. It's kinda again, it goes back to those passions.
Yes. Yeah, I
And
was gonna say, it goes back to the thing, also that's a lesson to your kids. Do things that, illustrate to them that you have you're a whole person. You
mhm.
have a life. You have to be happy apart from being mama or dad.
Because that's not all you are. You're not
Yeah.
right, you're not just a dad. You are a musician, you are also a working person, you
Yeah.
are a son, you are all of these things,
Yeah.
just
And
like
look, and just like anything, it's like, well, there's a balance. I mean, if you're gonna be a total selfish narcissist who's like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna," and I mean, I'm sure we all know examples of people where you look judgmentally and say, "Don't they pay any attention to their kids? Don't they?" And no, we've all noticed correlations between certain kids who are, ill behaved or socially not adjusted correctly, and parents who seem to be checked out. Although nobody lives in anyone else's house, so it's.
right.
But sometimes, like, okay, well, there's smoke, there's where there's probably fire. But, so we don't want to take it to an extreme. But yeah, there's definitely a healthy area that's not on either extreme where I'm just 100% an employee of my kids Inc. Well, I just, yeah, I had the parent, but I became a parent, but I'm still all about me. There's a very healthy middle ground there, and I think
Yeah.
it's probably a good thing for any parent to consider that a responsibility to find where he or she fits, or they fit on that spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just like you said, it's a perfect way to set an example for your kids, that life is multifaceted. You are not just
Yeah.
one thing. Obviously, like I loved hearing about the songs that you wrote early in your sons' lives and how
Yes.
music has sort of played a role in coming to terms with who you are as a parent. How did that evolve over the years? Have you written more about your sons? I know you said you traveled a lot and had to be away sometimes. Like, did that come out in your music later in life?
Definitely. I mean, there's even lyrically, like it's explicitly referred to in there, in the song dedicated to my older one. I mean, I wrote it when I was away. Actually, I wrote. I usually not to go too deep into the musical and aspect of it, but I played the. I learned. I took, as I mentioned earlier, I took piano lessons as a kid, so I mean, I'm comfortable enough on the piano to be able to write songs. I'm not any kind of concert pianist or anything. And then when I went to college, I got a guitar and I taught myself the chords of the guitar. So I have horrible technique on the guitar, but I know musically how the guitar works, and I can use it to write songs and to do usually. I'm not going to be playing any solos. I have terrible technique, but I can strum along. You invite me to a barbecue and hand me guitar, and I'll entertain people playing any number of pop songs that people like to sing along to. So like that's me on the guitar. But I was away, and I happened to be in Africa. I definitely didn't have a guitar with me, but I had, for whatever reason, it was the first generation iPad, and when they had on GarageBand where you can point and
Yes.
chords and now, I mean, now whatever. Now you can just tell AI, make me a song about
My
parenthood,
god,
right? Whatever. I
yes.
don't. We could spend 3 podcast episodes just about that. So let's not even go there, Chelsea. But at the time, it was, oh wow, this is amazing. You can just point the chords, and it will. It had loops in there of piano or guitar or organ or whatever you wanted to have in there. And so I actually wrote the song on the iPad. And yeah, it was very much about, I'm away. And the lyrics say that, there's times when I'm gonna be away, but I've got to provide for you. That's part of my job as a dad. And that's the career that I have, requires me to be away sometimes. And I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I could be all places at all times, but I can't. I'm only one physical being and I only have a certain number of hours in a day. And so, yeah, I want you to know that. And also, as I said in the second song dedicated to my younger son, the chorus is saying exactly that. Know that I believe in you, and hang on. The plane is coming soon to bring me back to you. And so, yeah,
Mm.
it's very much the traveling dad, and I think that's going back in. I mean, the musical idiom that I work with is basically rock. Like it's a band, guitar, drums, keyboards, bass, and a singer. So it's that's the way that I function, and so of course I think back to all the bands that I loved, and you hear those musicians from the '60s, '70s, '80s, whatever, talk about because most of them are dads too.
Yeah,
And what it was like to be touring the world, and again, not like nowadays. Like in those days, bands were putting out an album every year, and they were touring the world every year. Those guys were away
yeah.
all the time. And so you hear them talk about what it was like to be a dad and still be on the road, They weren't there when their kids were born, stuff like that. And so that, funny enough, also reverberated in my head in terms of, wow, I'm somehow like them. I'm not on the road making music, but their music meant so much to me. But also like their experience as dads, having to have been away and missing their kids, and just hearing interviews with them and how they dealt with it, how they coped with it, and a lot of them have big regrets. I mean, famous stories. Eric Clapton's son, and the
Mm-hmm.
song "Tears in Heaven," which was inspired by that, and Robert Plant's son, lead singer of Led Zeppelin, whose son passed away, and so there's a lot of heavy stuff there,
Yeah.
um, if you look into it. Now, okay, I'm not putting myself in the league of those musicians, and that's fine if that means that my kids stay healthy and alive and don't have any tragic deaths. Like, I'd be perfectly happy that nobody ever hears my songs, but my kids grow up healthy. I definitely wouldn't trade that. But yeah, that's in there, being away and having to travel for work. Now, look, it's easier nowadays because we have FaceTime and we have all these tools at our disposal and texting them and whatever. So you're at least aware of what's going on day to day, and that helps. So when you come home, it's not like you're coming back and you have no idea what had gone on. You're still minute to minute up to date of what happened, just as if you had been home. So that's a sense of relief and comfort as well.
Yeah. That I think that's a benefit to this generation's kiddos.
Yeah,
We were just looking this up this morning. The current generation of kiddos is Gen Alpha.
yeah,
Yeah, our kids are Gen Alpha,
right,
and they will always know connection. They will always I mean, they've never lived in a world where you can't get a hold of someone or can't see
right.
someone's face, and I just think that that's so interesting when you talk about these other musicians as well being away, and, yeah, it there's my brain's going down a rabbit hole, but, like, they've never known a world without connection, but it's also digital, and it's not always
Yeah,
physical, so there's a place for that as well. I just keep going back to your music though, and I do encourage listeners to go check out your music, and your links will be in the show notes. Like you say,
lovely.
like, well,
Yes,
if
that'd be.
nobody listens to my music, no, I want people to listen to your
Oh,
music.
I want them to as
Yes.
well. And by the way, whether they love it or hate it, I mean, that's fine too. Fernando Perdomo, the guitarist that I work with, who runs a studio in LA, and he's played with some of the biggest names in the world, and he's always like, the worst thing as an artist is indifference. That somebody
Mm,
hears your music and be like, whatever. Whether they love it or they hate it and say, "No, this is blasphemy. This is terrible." Looks like one of the things I did before. I mean, apart from writing the songs about my kids, the first album dedicated to my kids. One of the first album that I did was an album of covers, but they were mashup covers, like taking two songs that don't necessarily belong together and creating a new arrangement that combines, like let's say the bass line of one song with the melody of the other song laid on top of it. That's what they call a mashup cover. And so I did a whole album of those, and obviously the purists of fans of those original artists, some
blasphemy.
of them, yeah, were not very happy about all that. And I'm like, thank you, but your anger makes me so happy because it means that you love the originals as much as I do. I just chose to express it in a different way. And again, this is veering into musical territory here, but all of the anybody who likes bands from the up through the 80s, even up through the 90s. I mean, nowadays, the way music industry is functioning is a little bit different. But let's say the big acts that we grew up with, all of those guys started by doing versions of other people's songs that had come before. And a lot of times they were as blasphemous in the way that they did those songs. And if they hadn't done that, they would never have developed into the artists that meant so much to us. So I flip it on its side and I say, no, we owe it to those artists to create blasphemy on their works, because if they didn't do that with the artists that inspired them, they never would have become what we loved.
Mhm.
So that's part, you can't separate it. You can't just,
You can't discount it,
you
and
can't.
I will say 2 things. 1, I love a good mashup, and I mean, I am a music, like, just total randomness. Like, I love everything across the board, and some of the things make no sense as to why I like them, but I love a good mashup, but And you were saying, like, this goes into the musical realm. I can literally say the same thing that you're saying about musicians about parents. And
Okay.
right? Like, so we had our parents or our parental figures that we looked up to, and they were emulating the
Hmm.
parents that they had and that they were looking up to, but they were doing things differently and trying things differently. And maybe someone was saying, that's not the way you do it, and that's not how you're supposed to do it. But you have to do it that way to figure out who you are as a parent.
Yes.
Right? See, I can bring it back. I can do it.
Well, you remind me of, it's a wonderful example of that. It's a commercial or whatever, one of these short content things, but it was contained a really, really good lesson. It was something, it was subtitled from a country in East Asia. I don't know which one, Vietnam or China or whatever. And it was a girl who's, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. And her mom is preparing fish. And so she takes the fish and cuts the head and the tail off and cooks the fish. And the kid's like, well, why are you doing that? She goes, well, that's the way my mom did it. So she goes to her grandma's house, and knocks on the door, like, hey, grandma, I was asking mom, she's making fish. Why does she cut the head and the tail off? And she said that that's the way you did it. And the grandma's like, well, that's the way that my mom taught me how to do it. So she goes and finds her great grandma somewhere who's like, in her 90s or whatever, or in her probably in her 80s. And she goes to the great grandma. She's like, my mom was making fish and she just, she cuts off the head and the tail. And, I asked her, she said, that's the way her mom did it. And I asked grandma, she said, that's the way her mom did it. So I'm coming to you, like, why did you do it that way? And the great grandma's falling on the floor laughing. She's like, honey, in the 1940s, I only had a pan this big. Right, that's so right. So, I mean, extrapolating from that, yeah, there's certain things that seem obvious to us, but no, with what we have available to us now, we can adapt them and improve upon them. And it doesn't mean that we disrespect what we were taught. It just means that no, we can take the grain of truth that's there and cultivate it in a different way.
And
That's
build
as a
on it.
parent, at least that's what I try to do. And
Yeah.
my kids will be the judge of that. They'll look back on things and say, no, I'm not. I'm going to do things differently than what my dad and mom did on this particular area, or I like this, or I didn't like that. I mean, I explicitly tell my kids, for example, I was not very gifted athletically, Chelsea.
Neither
Okay.
was
So,
I.
okay.
Yeah.
But I was obliged, just like obliged to take piano lessons 2nd through 8th grade. I played soccer in the fall and I played baseball in the spring and I rode the bench and I sucked diddly ucked, as Homer would say to Flanders. But my parents were like, not that they were super athletically inclined either, but they're like, you are a kid in school and you are going to be on the team because that's part of your social upbringing. That's what you're going to do, whether
Uh-huh.
you like it or not. And we're going to go to your games and cheer for you the 3 minutes that you're on the field, or or whatever. And so, yeah, I look at it the same way with my kids. I'm like, I think that was good that they said that, because okay, we complain that our kids are on their iPads and their screens and all that stuff all day long. But okay, but we were on Nintendo all day long
We
too.
were
I mean,
our Game Boys and our
right.
Ataris and
So
yeah.
right. So yeah, it's maybe worse now because it's in their hand. But still, if you give them the choice, they're most likely just like to sit on the couch in front of a screen all day. So it's like, no, you're gonna get off the couch and go play soccer or go play baseball or go take music lessons or whatever it is. And so I look on as an example, explicitly like, yeah, okay. My parents said through 8th grade, through middle school. Once you go to high school, you're becoming an adult. Then it's for you to choose what you want to do. You have to choose something, but then you'll be able to pick your own activity because there'll be more options available to you. So that's an example of things where I say, yeah, that's what I'm going to copy exactly what they did. I'm going to cut the head and the tail off the fish, and not even question the size of the pan, because I think that makes sense for me. Other things where I'm like, I look at it and I, like the little girl in this cute example, go back and say, why? And ask myself, say, no, I don't feel wedded. I don't feel an obligation to continue it the same way. I'm going to do it the way I'm going to do it. And that I'm going to segue to a discussion of another song, which is not dedicated to either of my kids, but it's kind of dedicated to young girls, because I didn't have any young girls, and I was going back on this. Like, is it a blessing or a curse that I didn't have young girls? And I think I was just saying this to somebody the other day. The poor thing, if I had had a girl, because I would have I would have used her as a stone on which to grind my axe of
Like gender
traditional roles.
stereotypes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because okay, like my kids, we every Christmas we used to do like a a rock song arrangement where, the younger would be on the drums and the older one plays the bass guitar, and I'd be playing the guitar or the piano or whatever. We would do a Christmas song that everybody loved. It was like, our little band of dad and two sons. And I thought if I had a daughter, she'd be listening to Led Zeppelin and playing the drums too. To hell
Yeah.
with the pink dresses and all that stuff. And I remember vividly a friend of mine from college who became a pediatrician, and we were talking years later, and she said, one of the things I learned as a pediatrician is that it's very important the way that you talk to girls. And she said, I make a point whenever a girl comes in the office, I never make the first remark about how she looks.
Mm,
Like, you're so cute, or that dress is so nice, or whatever, because you're reinforcing that your value is based upon how you look, which
mm-hmm.
is, pretty terrible. Okay, it's hard to completely, we're all a little bit narcissistic creatures, so it's hard to get away from that. But I thought, and so I took her advice, and at times I would meet other parents, kids before I had kids even, and I would meet a girl and be like, "Wow, you seem to be very curious or very brave or whatever." And they're like, "Well, that's an odd thing to say." I'm like, "Well, would you rather just me tell her that your dress looks nice? I mean, you look so cute and so pretty." So that really hit me. And so that song, there's a song that's my niece, like, she was, again, we would sit around and I had the guitar, and it was a song about how just a cute baby with chubby little thighs, and you just want it, like, all, like, just a
All the
silly song
roles.
that you
Yeah.
have about that you sing with your kids. And so that was what it was. That was the content of the song. That, this girl's so cute, you just want to eat her up. And later on, I took it and I transformed it. And I said, and that particular, my niece, she ended up being a girl who has a certain girly side, but she's also like, um, her dad is a bit of a mad scientist type. So she took after him, very curious and very brave and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought, okay, this is going to be a song about a little girl who breaks the mold and becomes a superhero just because she can.
Yeah.
And so I think I don't have any daughters. It's kind of a funky, kind of a yacht rock funk vibe to the tune. And yeah, it's all about a girl who decides to hell with the rules. I'm going to become a superhero, and I'm not going to need a man to come and give me jewels and um, golden diamonds. No, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, because I can and because I want to. And if I want to save the world, I'm going to go and save the world. And I think, okay, it's just a song. Nobody's going to actually fly through the sky, but girls should be, in my opinion, should be taught to believe at least they can do anything the boys can. If not, they can do anything at all.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love too. I always say I love. I need my 2 words in my podcast are love and beautiful, and I really need to
Well,
come
those
up
are
with
two
some
pretty
new
good
ones, but
words,
I mean, they're
Chelsea. I
good
mean, you could
words.
do a lot worse, right?
I could, but I so one, I love the concept of the song because again, like I'll tell you, I have 2 girls. I don't and I
Hmm.
always pictured myself having boys. And now I'm like, what would I do with 2 boys? I don't know what I would do with 2 boys, but I can tell you that my girls, especially the younger ones, can wear a spinny dress and then also rock hard on the drums or right? Like
Yeah,
or get in the mud and dig up worms. Not my
absolutely.
oldest because she would probably cry. But my youngest absolutely. So
Well, I mean, having 100 dogs, you
I
would
mean the
think that.
older if she has
Yeah.
100 she's got enough to deal with and the fleas,
Okay.
I don't know. But my
Yeah.
youngest anyway. She, but I love that you explored that even though, like you said, like, you don't have girls, like, I think
Hmm.
it's okay. I think it's okay to explore those things, and what I love the most about when you talk about your music, specifically the songs that you've shared with us today, is it's like a chronicle of your journey
Yeah.
as a parent and as an uncle and so and your kids and your nieces and nephews or whoever, they're gonna have that. They're gonna have that
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
Do you talk with your kids, with your boys about like, "Hey, this is how" maybe not, but like, this is why I wrote this song," or like, "This is how I was feeling when I wrote this song."
When I mean, now they're professionally recorded and mixed and produced, and they're out there in the world on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music and whatever. But when they were just in demo form, and I would put them on in the car, and the kids were younger. They were like, 6 or 7 at the time, and they would get very uncomfortable listening to it. Very uncomfortable listening to it. 'cause it was kind of like like they were old enough to understand what the song was about, and it was, kind of emotionally overwhelming for them. But now I think because they see me doing music and making other songs, like, they understand that, "Oh, dad is making these songs in the context of creating music, and he's on podcasts interviewing with people because he does music." Not that they see me as some kind of, I mean, I've got like less than 10 monthly listeners on Spotify. I mean, I'm just getting started with the whole thing. So there's no illusion that like dad's a famous musician or anything like that. But they see that I'm doing it, and so it's not like, oh, dad is doing that just, again, it comes back to the thing. Dad is not doing it just because of us. Like, he doesn't make songs just because he's a dad to us. He makes
Mhm.
songs because he makes songs, and just these ones happen to be about us.
Yeah.
So they're old enough now to get that. Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting too, down the road how, like, the conversations that you may have about that and when they're in their 20s or when they're in their
Yeah.
30s, because we know things that, oh, we cringed and like you were saying, like, "Oh my god, mom, leave me alone," like, those things when we were younger, now as adults and as parents ourselves, we look at those moments and be like, "That's why you did what you did."
Yeah.
Or like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, you weren't trying to make me miserable or embarrass
Yeah.
me or."
Well, I mean, there's like a number of memes that pop into my head right now when you bring that up, but, it's it's a very valid thing, and frankly, when I see forget about seeing that our parents' generation is fading. I mean, people are leaving now.
Mhm.
And so I'm very aware of that, saying, okay, don't, if the day that they're not there anymore, you're gonna miss the things that annoy you or have
Yes.
historically annoyed you. But then, frankly, Chelsea, even people in our generation who are passing away and leaving behind young kids. I mean, I don't want to say I think about it every day, but
Think about it a lot.
there's people who I think about a lot, several times a week, and I'm always like, okay, yeah, I'm really annoyed right now about whatever, but I have the pleasure of being alive to be able to be annoyed about this, or you know, but yeah, that's a that's a real thing. Like, as bad as it is, okay, but but you're alive, and you'll figure it out, whatever it is, whether it's a work problem or a parenting problem or a scheduling problem or whatever, or burn the casserole or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
all things that happen in the house that just seem like that in that moment, like the end of the world, and how much more can I put up with? But um, you know, we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're leaving a legacy behind.
Yeah. Oh,
And we
that's an important thing. I mean, as somebody who creates, I mean, even, creating this podcast, I mean, this lives on beyond you, and even hundreds of years from now, somebody might come across it and
what's a
listen to
podcast?
what
I
you
don't.
said and said, "Wow, that lady said love and beautiful a lot," and that really
They'll be like, "How do you play this thing?" That's like my kids being like, "What's a DVD?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"They're the things that we're replacing, Disney Plus with, so get used to 'em."
Yep.
Um, but yes, it's something that we're leaving behind, and yeah, you talk a lot about legacy, especially in the realm of parenting. And there's a lot of pressure that surrounds that too, but
Yeah.
there also doesn't have to be. Like, just be you, and that's what you're doing. Be you, be creative, be passionate, be there for your kids, and you're creating a legacy through doing that.
Yeah. And that's, again, like, that touches back on a lyrical theme, which is, I'm just doing the best I can.
Yeah, that's all
I'm
you
your
can
dad.
do.
I'm not, there's a verse in the second song where it's saying, after I say, just respect your mom because she's momming you to death. But then it says, I'll teach you all I can. And you might think that I'm a hero, but I'm just a man.
Yeah.
And in the first song, it flips the idea of pride on its head, because we're always saying, well, we're telling the kids we're so proud of you to build them up. But part of it is thinking back, like, okay, years from now, are you going to look back and say, I was proud of you as a parent. I was proud of you. I was proud to say you were my dad. And I mean, it's kind of morbid in the song. It says, one day will you stand before my grave and say, Dad, I was proud to be your son. But yeah, look, getting back to what I was just saying, like, limited time only.
It's the reality of the
Yeah.
situation. I mean, none of us, right, what's the saying? None of us get out of here alive. Like,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's
Yeah.
just, and so, yeah, and for for you in particular, and I guess, like, yeah, I guess like you're saying, like me too, like we're leaving something behind for them to hold on to, and yeah, we hope that they're proud of us just as much as we are proud of them in everything
Yes.
that they
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Um, so I'm gonna wind us around a little bit,
Okay.
and I'm gonna want because I always get to a point where I feel like I call it the deep sigh moment,
Okay.
and I feel like I'm at the deep sigh moment. I don't know
Okay.
about you, but
Okay.
but before I go too much further, I want to give you an opportunity to tell listeners where they can find you, where they can find your music, and also remind them, I'm drilling it into my listeners this
Mhm.
season, check the show notes.
Mhm.
Some people are like, what do you mean show notes? I'm like, show notes are where all the good stuff is.
Yep.
Um, so if my listeners would like to find you and your music, where's the best place to do that?
I would just go to Google and type The Agency, Ajjancy, and it's the only thing in the world that's called that. So you will quickly find my Instagram, my YouTube, my Spotify, blah, 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 blah. Or if you're in any of those apps, you can search for it directly. You just Google that word. It's a one-of-a-kind word. That's my artist name, and you'll find me and the songs that I do.
I love
And
it.
I'd be delighted to hear from anybody, even if they say I don't like your song or whatever. That's great too, you know. But, you know, it's really wonderful. Again, I haven't reached to the point where I have, you know, legions of adoring fans, but even just seeing people leave comments on YouTube say, "Wow, that was really lovely," or I listened to that song a few times and I favored it. It's like, wow, okay, it's working, you know? What I wanted
Right?
to happen is happening, and it's great. It's
It's
really a
not
wonderful
about the
feeling.
numbers. It's not about the
No.
numbers. It's about those individuals, and
Yes.
that's what Quiet
Yes.
Connection is all about.
There you go.
If it resonated with one person, um, then
I
that's all
feel
I
a
care
deep sigh
about.
coming on, Chelsea.
See, there it is, the deep sigh. Um, so I'm doing things a little different this season, and,
Okay.
how I end my episodes. For 5 seasons, I ended my episodes the same way, and now I'm challenging my guests a little bit.
Okay.
So,
Bring it
um
on.
oh, and I think you might like this too because I proudly identify as a Gen X dad.
Mhm.
I am an elder millennial. We remember back in the days before texting and voice memos, and when you wanted to reach someone, you had to call their landline and leave a message on the answering
Uh-huh.
machine. Okay, so you called Quiet Connection today. You called. You have no idea who my next guest is going to be. You don't know if they're a mom. You don't know if they're a dad. You
Okay.
don't know who they are. But you called and you got to leave them a message because they're not here to answer. What message would you leave for them?
Okay, so what message would I leave for
My
the
next
next guest
guest.
on your podcast?
Yeah.
In about me or about your podcast?
It's a message for them, or you can interpret it however you want. I've had people,
Okay.
I'd like to give as few guidelines as possible
Okay.
because I love the answers that I get.
Okay. All right. So my first thing would be before I even leave the message would be just to pray, if we're back in the days of answering machines, just to pray that my mom or dad doesn't pick up the phone while I'm in the middle of
No,
leaving the
yes.
message and saying, "Who's on the phone right now?" Right? And if there's
Yes.
one thing in my life that I'm grateful for, it's that I was never calling a girl's answering machine when I was 16 years old. And thank God it never happened that when I picked up the phone when I'm in the middle of like sweating through
God.
trying
Or
to
if
leave that
their
message.
mom or dad answered,
Oh God, oh
"Can
God, oh
I
God.
speak to Jenny, please?" Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my god.
Right.
So
Okay.
no, you got
So,
the
all
answering
right. So,
machine.
yes. All right. Nobody. I picked a good time when nobody can interrupt me. I would say, beep. Um, it's wonderful to have a forum where we can discuss these things and we can share because, like Chelsea said in the branding of the podcast, you're not alone. And if we're able to talk and you're able to have the discussion with her for an hour or an hour and change, and anybody can listen to it, even if nobody listens to it. I mean, she's got listeners, but even if nobody listens to it, just the fact you were able to express what you wanted to express and she was able to hear it and you were able to come to share some things, share some wisdom, and hopefully then impart that to others, whoever will hear it, even if it's hundreds of years from now. Like that's a wonderful thing. So share,
I love
share.
it.
Don't be shy about it. Don't feel your opinion's not valid. You know, you're there. You have experiences, and if you have them, even the richest, most famous, most spectacular person probably has the same experiences. And so don't discount what you have to offer others.
Beep. Love
Beep.
it.
Thank God. And then after that, who's on the phone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
if you're in my generation, I was trying to get on the internet. Yes. No.
I
See,
remember that.
oh my God. You get the ugh. Anyway, back to those days.
Yeah.
No, what I really am liking about this question is that everyone's interpreting it a little differently.
That's good.
Yeah, and the fun part of it, I say fun in quotes, is that to get your message,
Mm-hmm.
you have to listen to the episode before yours. So
Right.
it's kind of
There
like
you
my
go.
little con to be like, you got to come back so you can get your message.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But I just want to say it has been an absolute delight chatting with you.
Same
I
to you.
love chatting with dads, and especially when they can be vulnerable like you've been and share their honest journey. And yeah, so thank you.
And
Thank
look,
you
and
for,
I'm not weeping and wailing as I say these things. It's just like, come on, dads, own up to it. It was scary as hell when they put the baby in your arms, and you struggle to try to figure out, how do I support the mom, or when am I feeling like, okay, I don't get what's going on here. This seems ridiculous to me. It just seems like a baby crying. I mean, those are real things that happen.
yes. Yeah, that's the reality. And it's okay to feel those things, and it's okay to talk about those things.
Yeah.
And hey, I'll sit with you and I'll listen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it. I thank you for joining me. And
I thank you for having me, and for
Yeah.
having all your guests and doing all that you do. It's really, usually I'm on music podcasts, and I always say, we don't have the big record labels supporting us, and you don't have, a huge publishing contract with Rand McNally, putting you on, on Good Morning America to talk about your book or whatever. But you have a community of people that listens to you and gets value out of what you do, and that's to be appreciated. And we have to support each other at the level that we're at. We have to support each other.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to support you. And
Likewise.
yeah, thank you so much.
Of course.
I'm so grateful to George for sharing his story and his music with me today. His reflections on fatherhood, creativity, and legacy are a reminder that pursuing passion as a parent isn't selfish. It's modeling self-expression and love for our kids. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Make sure you're following us on social media for more conversations like this. And if you'd like to share your own story, visit our website at quietconnectionpodcast.com or send us an email. I'd love to hear from you. Join us next time when another story is told and you realize you are not alone. I see you.